People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, a rare day off for myself, man. I had my Christmas party, and like the smart individual I am, I booked the next day off. I'm not gonna lie, people, I'm making this vid, but my head is banging. Yeah, way too much Ray and F, and you shouldn't mix drinks, and you really shouldn't drink alcohol, really and truly. And yeah, it's been mashing the guy up, man. People, I'm sorry, I was just gonna have a sip and act kind of prestige because I'm on camera, but I'm not gonna lie, my throat dry, blouse and skirt. But moving on, Willy Aubameyang, I believe Aubameyang's brother. I'm sure you've all seen the AFTV comment. If you haven't, you probably come across it on social media. Willy Aubameyang, I believe, commented specifically Arteta is another Lumberg, and then I can't remember it specifically, but he put Arteta is just like Lumberg, and then he put the images initiating, I don't know, but initiating that he's very pessimistic about Arteta. Now, first and foremost, let me say a couple of things, pardon me, so people don't understand. First and foremost, Willy Aubameyang, his brother or whatever, he's allowed to say what he wants. He's allowed his own opinion. If he didn't say Arteta in, he didn't say Arteta out, he didn't say Arteta's good, he didn't say he's bad, but he's allowed to have whatever opinion he wants. He's allowed to tweet whatever he wants. Yes, his last name is Aubameyang, and we'll get on to that, but he is his own man within his own rights. His thing reflects only himself, and he's done nothing wrong but comment that. I wouldn't be making this video, it wouldn't be a talking point if it wasn't Willy Aubameyang and whatnot. He's free to say what he wants. He's allowed to believe in Arteta or not believe in Arteta. He's allowed to do what he wants. I wouldn't say I necessarily have a problem, but where my issue is for him, he's not a professional footballer, but certain things you can't leave to chance. Like, can't you say these things on a private account or a burner account? Not because he's done anything wrong, it's because of his last name. You can't, I believe in not leaving anything to chance. You don't know Aubameyang's personal feelings, but people can speculate, okay, if Willy Aubameyang thinks this, what does Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang feel? Is this what Aubameyang is saying, but he's using his manager, his brother or whatever to filter it through? Do you get it? Does he have similar views? Why is he not allowing his brother to why is he not winding it in? Obviously, on top of that, I don't have a problem with Aubameyang and Troops, for example. Like with any relationship, you see Lee Judges and Kevin Campbell. Now, Kevin Campbell, I've got a picture of him, but he's clearly before my time, and I'm sure Lee Judges, shout out to him. I'm sure he never pictured a world where he'd have his own show with Kevin. Do you get it? True Geordie, it's irrelevant, but True Geordie grew up idolising Alan Shearer, and now they're good friends. Do you get it? So I like to see these sort of things, because at base level, what is Alan Shearer? He was obviously rich now, but he comes from a working man's environment, similar to True Geordie, and they're obviously, up north dons, and they're together and whatnot. Aubameyang obviously loves the London lifestyle. I like to see the relationship with fans, but some fans don't like AFTV and the platform. We're not going to get into it, and they don't like that, and they don't like Aubameyang's relation. So they obviously use any sort of thing they can get at, they will use it. And I'm a big fan of not leaving anything to chance, people, because now we're here speaking about it. Aubameyang actually hasn't done anything, but you can bet your top dollar that if this continues a snowballing effect, the club will have words. He might have words. Who knows? Players around him might not necessarily like his relationship with individuals or platforms. For me, it's a talking point out of nothing, because if someone really wanted to feel this, you did hear some reports that players wanted Ancelotti, they don't want Arteta, influential players, if you can say that. And I said in the previous vid, pardon my language, fuck any player at Arsenal who is chatting shit about Arteta, or if Carlo came, because some of these players, they might have legitimate claims, but I think they whine too much, really and truly. None of them really, ironically, probably only Aubameyang, Leno and a couple others, really deserve a spot in this team, really, because some of these guys ain't even fit to be match day stewards, no disrespect, let alone professional footballers. Apologies. So it don't matter what they think. Like these players need to shut their mouth and get. Even if I didn't believe in the manager, they need to get behind whoever comes into the club, whether it's reports to Arteta or it's a wild card or whatever, because the players have no right to be saying this and that. But you can see the correlation. If Willy thinks that, if you're seeing things coming out of the Daily Mail, how the players don't want Arteta, they wanted, I believe the Mirror, they wanted a more experienced name, whether true or not, you can see how this, by some logic, it might have legs to it, but you can just see how this is a story where it doesn't need to be a story. Personally, I believe Aubameyang's going to keep it moving, because if I'm not saying he has the same views as his brother, but they don't live in a bubble. If but let's just say Aubameyang does have question marks over Arteta, and away from Arteta, you're just questioning the direction of this club and the playing staff, which away from this whole Arteta thing was what we're saying with Aubameyang. Then I believe he should leave, because I believe he would leave. I would leave in his shoes, because there's nothing here for him. But it's just a story that doesn't need to be a story. It's a talking point that doesn't need to be a talking point, and you leave nothing to chance. And I don't feel Aubameyang is like that in any way. But to play devil's advocate, who's to say he never asked his brother to specifically say that, or he weren't tweeting that directly from his account? I'm not saying that's true, but you get it. I'm not sitting here and you're not listening to this video if people move a bit smarter. You get it? Don't leave nothing to chance at all. It's completely different, but I'm not going to get into it. But the Bernardo Silva thing, people, whether it was a light-hearted joke or with Mendy or whatever, if he doesn't bring that into a public domain, or he does things a bit smarter, it is not a story. He doesn't get the £1,000 fine, miss games, getting condemned on social media. People actually call him Mendy a coon and all of these things. Pardon my language. All of these things do not happen if you just be smart. If when in doubt, just don't do it. You get Lingard the other day, when obviously shout out to Lingard, because I saw his story about looking after people. But do you remember that hotel video where he got a lot of backlash? And he said he meant to send it to private people, whatever. Don't leave things to chance. If you have any doubt, then this and that. And certain individuals should only leave social media. We're going off topic now, but leave social media to social media teams and whatnot. Do you get it? So, like I said, Willy is allowed his opinion. He's allowed, because it's not a thing. If I said that or you said that or commented that, it's not a thing. It's just his last name that makes it a thing, people. And it's sad, really. But moving on from that, you are hearing... And let me just say, before I carry on, the players, whether they believe in Arteta or whoever, they don't have no right, because some of them have played under, 4 managers, including Lombard, 3 official and a caretaker, and the inconsistencies remain. We'll get on to talking about the clear out. Apparently, the club want to do a clear out. And there's no, listen, there's some players I love in that team, players I've loved, players I never want to leave. But at this moment in time, sounding hypocritical, I don't give a crap. Everybody can leave. Listen, these players, again, the beauty about certain individuals leaving this club is that you can kind of see things for what they are. The board need to pull their weight. The players definitely need to pull their weight, because we can't move. Not one single fragment of this club can make us successful again. The intent needs to trickle down from Stan Kroenke all the way down to the board. The board need to give head coach, not a manager, Arteta, whoever, good players to move with. And then we need not even that. Short, medium and long-term consistent planning. Alright, in the short term, we're not winning no league titles or anything. So let's get these young players some experience, install some philosophy, which is one of the core things I want to see from Arteta. Do you get where I'm going, people? Try and find some positives. Next season, listen, proper address the spine, obviously with the young players, plug some gaps, and then you go forward. And then obviously you look around the side, whether I rate these players or not, you say, Aubameyang's in his 30s, Lacazette's not far behind, Socrates and Luiz are the same. Okay, cool. We need to go and inject some early to mid 20-year-olds. We need to go and find, if possible, a 25-plus-year-old or around that striker for the long-term thing. We need to go out and find a long-term pairing for the midfield. I mean, for the defence and midfield and things. Long-term, who's coming from the academy? How are they going to tie in? What I'd like to see, and I hope Arteta's got it, is that the likes of Nelson, Tyrese coming from the academy, Joe Willock, even you can throw Guendouzi in there. These young players, what specifically do we want them to develop into? Martinelli, okay, he looks like he's going to be a striker. How is that going to tie in long term to what we're doing? While we might be looking for a Aubameyang replacement, but do you get where I'm going? How are we going to have 2 top strikers? What winger is this guy going to develop into? Is he going to be an inverted one? Is he going to be more hugging the touchline? What specific central midfielder is Joe Willock going to be? Box-to-box Cam, which I don't believe he will be. Deep lying. How does that tie in? Do you get it, people? Everybody needs to pull their weight. And the players, when Emre first come into this club, what did you hear? Oh, we love Emre. Whether you believe in Emre or not, which I didn't, but he deserved my support. What did you hear? Oh, we know what we have to do. We were Emre's injected, made us tougher to beat. You heard them waxing lyrical, and then you heard they're down in tools, they're questioning his logic. And again, they're right. They're not. I'm not saying they're right or wrong to do such, but these players need to pull it out. It's too easy being at this club. We need a complete clear out, people. It's like, listen, at a push. At a very big push, the only players I would move forward with next season, listen, I would move Mesut Ozil on, but I do believe as inconsistent as he is, I could use him in my squad at least until his final contract is done, people. Do you get it? I'm not saying he's going to be built around my side. I'm just saying I could use that creativity or whatever. I'm not saying don't bring in other creative man. But yeah, excluding all the young players that I wax lyrical about, experienced players or players that are key parts of the team, really, I like Guendouzi. He's frustrating, he's young, but he shows more fight. Since he's been here, him and Martinelli have shown me more that they move like Arsenal players or people that are kind of on this team. I know he was terrible the other week, more so than certain other individuals, people. 1 second. Just checking my train time. Allow me, people. You got to make that train going to go Stratford. But like I was saying, them two there, they've shown me, because I personally think it's harsh that people, obviously Guendouzi, I'm not saying he's going to be world class. There are several things he needs to improve in, but I do think it's a testament and a curse that people forget his age, and he has shown consistency. He has gone through bad spells. I don't think right now he's of the level to be, unless he earns a shirt, which he's done a couple of times, first name on the team sheet, vital in the side. I think he's still learning and developing, but I've seen more that he's an Arsenal player or he's on playing for this club, same for Martinelli, than others. So exclude all them young G's. But experienced players, listen, Aubameyang's got a year left. I could use Aubameyang and Ozil to a degree. Obviously, Pepe is there. Leno's not perfect, but Leno, he's calm. Obviously, you've got Torreira. I'll move forward with Holding. I can't lie, Chambers would be available for the right price. If I hear a 20 million, you know, I'm trying to get that money, people, but I'd use him as a squad player. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about Saliba because he's a young player and he's not here, but there's not too many players I would move forward with in that Arsenal team. Do you get it? Tierney, of course. So just apply a bit of common sense. But my point is, there's not many. Like, I love Lacazette, I love Aubameyang, but if their hearts are not in it and they want to leave, then let them go. I'm at that point now as an Arsenal fan, people. Moving on, I will say as well, players need to stop thinking they're indispensable at this club, really and truly, because it's too easy to play for this team. I don't care if you're world class and all of these things, which I don't believe anybody is. There's certain values and ways you've got to move with. Last season, Emre fucked up top four. He fucked it up, let's be honest. But so did the players. We missed out by a point, but Emre's not alone. You look at as much as I criticise Emre, games at Old Trafford last season where he set you up perfectly and individual errors have led to us conceding goals. And that happened a lot of times. It don't matter about management and the board and all of these things. Players got to take responsibility, because a mistake made more than once is a choice. You lot keep showing you lack fight. You're not on it for all the time. And you had Wenger, who was obviously taking all the blame and all that gentleman stuff. Very quickly it became all Emre and people just wanted him out of the club. Obviously where we're at, and I think it's too easy for these players. These players have a wrong... listen, I'll sit here and defend Arsenal players, you lot know me, but there's a serious sense of entitlement, and it's too easy to play for this fucking football club. I love this club. Listen, I don't get no money from well, you know, the YouTube check here and there, but I don't get nothing from speaking about this club. Like, I love this club, and people, I'm not saying they need to love this club, they need to love it as much as I do, but what they need to do is realise the opportunity. There's so many players that have worse ability than you lot, if I can say that now, that would put in better performances. It's too easy. Right now, we've got a squad of pretenders. They talk well in games, they talk well after games, they talk well when reflecting on defeats, but time and time again, they keep failing, people. You've had multiple chances last season to get top four. As much as Emre fucked it up this season, the players, how many games did you not start off well? Did you not see out leads? Did you not go in for the kill? Did you just simply play like a bunch of pussies? Really and truly, let's be honest. Stop the entitlement, because there's not one player. Yeah, you could say Aubameyang and Leno, at a push. No one is playing to their full potential. Nobody is giving their all, and I don't believe any of these players can look themselves in the mirror and honestly say that, people, really and truly. But it is what it is in that regards, people. But moving back to Willy Aubameyang's tweet, it said, Lundberg, Arteta is the same, no experience with the images, like I said. Staying with Arteta, though, and Josh Kroenke, like I said yesterday, has more or less signed off on the deal for Arteta. He's returning back to the US. He's stayed in England at a delicate time for Arsenal to oversee the changes, and obviously with how we've been, with Lundberg coming in, with all of these sort of things, allegedly, he has stayed in London. Apparently we want to announce Arteta before we play Everton, which is a former club of his, which ironically a manager linked with us in Carlo Ancelotti seems to be going there as well. Apparently he'll sign a 3-year deal. You've seen anything from £5 to £6 million a year contract, which isn't the biggest, and whatnot. £1 million, I believe, in compensation to Manchester City. Apparently he wants to bring in some Spanish coaches, and he wants to bring in Rodolfo Borrell. I'm so sure that guy has worked at Liverpool's academy and Barcelona's. From what I've read, if I can remember correctly, he has had some run-ins and strained relations with fellow coaches and some players. I could be wrong, but I'm sure. But people, he's a bloody good coach. So the young players, if they listen to what him and Arteta and Lombard, by God's grace, stays as well, there could be something in it for you, innit? I don't want to get gassed because man was all saying, people were all saying this when who's Emre's done. There's it Carcedo, that guy, you know, the shouting, excited, bollocking stuff on the touchline when you go Emirates. So I don't want to get gassed off that. But in terms of competency, obviously I don't know him firsthand, but that's a name that I hold in high regard, so I'd like to see that. You've obviously got Dominic Torrent as well, who's obviously worked with Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich, Manchester City and Barcelona. So it's very important that Arteta is surrounded by people he can trust, and also to a degree more experienced individuals than him, because it is uncharted territory for Arteta. Whether you wanted Arteta or not, I personally think until he shows us different, you should stand by him. Of course, we would have potentially wanted to lean more towards an experienced manager because of the delicate period at times. But what's to say an experienced manager is going to be a success? I'm not saying Arteta is going to be Pep Guardiola, because he's not. But what's to say that just because you have that experience in a game which changing, and people like Arteta, you're seeing people come from head of academy to things, what's to say he won't be a success? What's to say he hasn't been preparing for this his whole life? Because like me in YouTube, if I go and apply for a scouting job or whatever, I struggle to get them. I have my talent ID, I have this and that, and you don't know I know football, but on paper it's like... So I can understand, but how can you begrudge Arteta in your professional life? You all want to take a step up. If you want to blame any anger and don't agree with Arteta, say at the board, because you can't begrudge Arteta for taking a role. He showed some balls. He's inexperienced. He's gone into a role where it's a mad thing. Like the club is fractured. He could have stayed at City if Pep busts out at the end of the season. Yeah, he would still be a novice, but that's a way better environment for me anyways if I'm a first time manager, if being at City, at the City helm, to Arsenal. So he's shown some balls and some courage. And listen, some Arsenal fans I think are a bit weird and hold Arteta in this high regard in terms of being a previous player, and I've heard the terms legend, but he's a former Arsenal man. He's been preparing for this for a while, so he at least deserves a chance for me anyways. Like he deserves a chance. Like you can't, nothing else apart from a chance. Like you can't begrudge a man for that, really. If he shows something, then it shows something to not get behind, then it's cool. But when I'm hearing people say, "Oh, I'm not going to support Arteta," or "I'm not doing this and that," you can just tell these a lot. I'm not going to say not Arsenal fans, but listen, get behind the club, get behind the man, really, not necessarily behind the board and that, but get behind the man. You can't say you're an Arsenal fan if you're not going to support us, or you're saying these things purely because you disagree with the manager. If he shows you things to not agree with, then by all means do what you need to do. But that's not Arsenal, and that's the thing with football fans. They more want to be right than want to feel the joys of a football team. Because let's just say I didn't want Arteta, but Arteta came and got us top 4. Certain people will remain stubborn and say Arteta's a rubbish appointment, he's this, he's that. That's football for you. Do you get it, people? And they'll genuinely pray, I believe. People, they more want Arsenal to lose and Arteta to fail so they can beat him with that stick and say, "Yo, I told you so," than him actually being a success. I believe we live in a crazy time, people. It's a madness. It's crazy, people. So yeah, Arteta seems to be done. Apparently he's agreed it, and like I said, we want him in charge of the Everton game. Apparently, however, he's still going to be involved in Manchester City's Carabao Cup game with Oxford. You've actually heard Pep Guardiola say more or less that he expects it to go through as well. So you can imagine talks are at an advanced stage, people, really and truly. Should we see if there's any other Arsenal news beyond Torreira going to Napoli and the typical stuff like that? I'm not sure. I mean, Wenger said really there's no relevance to this, but I believe Arteta certainly has a great future. He has certainly learned a lot in his first position as an assistant coach, and after that as well, he will have to deal with the fact that he has no experience at that level, and he will have to get surrounded well. This is what I'm saying. He needs to be surrounded. And a lot of people talk about management. Now, listen, Jose Mourinho never went from, or AVB, look how AVB went. They all played football at some level, but Jose never went from Barcelona translator to managing Chelsea or whatever, which is the equivalent to Arsenal, really. Arteta's been assistant coach. He's got a head role now. So it's completely different. But do you get it? Jose had to learn Jose had that desire to be a manager. He wasn't necessarily an ex-player and whatnot. He went from being a translator to a coach and whatnot because he was strong in his principles. So if Arteta is strong in his principles, if he's truly been preparing for this, I'm not going to say all his life because it's not Disney Channel, but the moment he decided or contemplated hanging up his boots and he's generally got the experience, then he's more likely to hit the ground running. For me, in short, what Arteta has to do, he has to have a clear philosophy. He obviously, defensively, the problems with the transition, how we press, the quality of players. I'm not going to bore you, and you lot are intelligent to know these are basic things we need to improve. But in short, he needs a clear philosophy, because fundamentally, for everything, that's where Emery went wrong. Because let's say Jose is typically classed as a defensive manager, right? He would play a defensive team. You could critique him, he's playing 5 at the back. He's not trying to make our attackers do this and that. You couldn't say that about Emery. You couldn't say Emery is an attacking coach because goals were masking our performances and we weren't transitional play and combination play all over the field wasn't there. We call him pragmatic because he was very cowardly in how we might be ahead and he wants to quickly bring people off, favoured a flat midfield three, very much had an inferior complex in my opinion in all games, not just against big teams. But how can I call you a defensive manager if you're conceding the most shots, your inability to keep clean sheets, and your inability to just defend like a competent team? You can't be a good defensive coach, really. It's like saying you're a top gunman and you can't shoot a gun. It don't make sense. It don't make sense if you can't hit a target. It don't make sense, does it, people? Really and truly. I believe everything. I think Emery tried to do everything and did nothing, and he was very cowardly, but fundamentally he struggled to have a clear way of doing things. And I'm sure if you interviewed him, or if he had his time again, I'm sure he might do things differently or look at things potentially differently, people. I don't think there's anything else out. Well, the only thing left to say is Arteta could be installed as head coach by the end of the week after 2 rounds of talks with his old club. Arteta has been told only limited funds will be available to him in January, with the club's priority to clear out high-earning flops. So that's probably, I don't think Ozil's an Arsenal flop, but Ozil's a high earner. Ozil, Mustafi, the likes of El Nene, Mkhitaryan, they're both on loan, but if we can get them off the wage books, and anybody else that isn't part of this. Listen, limited budget in January was always going to happen. It's not a problem. The problem is, well, it is a problem, but we are mismanaged. We have money, but we've been mismanaged. January last year, 5 million on Denis Suarez. Whether Emery wanted him, whoever, that cost us 5 million. And if we haven't got money, why are we spunking that on someone that had an injury record? No disrespect to Suarez, was hardly going to make a difference at this club. So it's about being strategic. You could spend 50 million on a centre-half and he could be shit. You could spend 2.5 million on a centre-half and he could be good. The problem with Arsenal is that to us fans, it doesn't look like there's a clear approach at identifying a certain calibre of player. A composing IC3 midfielder for me, a centre-half of some sort, whether we can go and find a Tony Adams or something. Because I do believe there's deals out there. Again, it's hard, and for every Martinelli and Guendouzi, we've missed out on bare targets, but it's not rocket science. I mean, prices have inflated, but if you went and got, and it's easy to sit here and say ifs, but if you went and got Van Dijk at a Celtic, you went and got a Maguire at Hull, you went and got a Robertson, you went and got a Mo Salah when everybody was saying he was a flop, you went and grabbed a Mane for 40 million when people were like, I don't know if he could step up. Do you get it? I'm not saying it's that easy, but when you do your due diligence and you really have a philosophy and you really are getting ex-player because of why philosophy, it don't matter. You can sign man for however much they signed Robertson for, or 70 odd for Van Dijk or whatever. That's what's needed, because Arteta is a head coach. He's a novice coach. He's just getting into a role, a very delicate role at Arsenal. He's going to have a million things to do anyways, just as being a manager and on top of the situation. So while he needs to be surrounded by coaching staff, once again the philosophy at the top needs to be helped, because we're Arsenal. We talk about winning through harmony. Why have we not been winning on top of the obvious? Because we've been divided. United, we stand, divided we fall. It's that simple sort of thing, people. But on that note, I'm going to keep it pushing. People, DG, I'm out. Thank you for watching and rocking each and every time.